Okay, time for another video for your latest introductions. I waited a while because of the issues with the internet you had in Iran the previous week, and that kind of disrupted usual service. I won't say anything more about that. That's not my business. But we've got some introductions now in the last week or so time for a video. So this is an advantages and the disadvantages video. It's a video introduction essay. It's simply asking, what are the advantages and the disadvantages of X, Y, Z? So we'll take a look at my introduction and I'll show you how I paraphrased that. Then we'll take a look at yours. Okay. So, universal free healthcare should be abolished, as a person should be held responsible for their own health and well-being. Okay. What are the advantages and disadvantages of free healthcare? So, my introduction first. It has been argued that the individual should be held responsible for their own health and not the state. Now, as you see, this is pretty similar, not identical. I changed person to individual instead of health and well-being. I just changed it to health. The reason why, and you'll see when we take a look at the rest of this, you don't have to change every word. All that you have to do is make sure that you simply do not copy it word for word in your own introduction. So, for one thing, I've changed the order. So in this one, universal health care comes at the start. Here, free system of health care available to all, which is a paraphrase of that, is the second thing. So I basically turned it around. So universal health care should be abolished as a person, blah, blah, blah. I've turned it around and I've put the individual first, universal health care at the back. Okay. So, universal healthcare, free system of healthcare available to all, should be abolished. I left that the same. I was thinking of changing it to the abolishment of universal healthcare is a consequence of people being held responsible, but it was kind of awkward. I didn't like it. As I say, you don't have to change everything. You don't have to change every word. You don't have to change everything. You know, some phrases and words you can't really change without making it nonsensical. So, main thing that I did here, I changed the order. So, universal healthcare, free system of healthcare available to all. Person should be held responsible. The individual should be held responsible instead of person. You could put the individual a citizen or citizen, because it's talking about the state. Responsible for their own health and not the state. Okay, not required should be abolished. Okay, so what's the advantage? Well, now I know this is advantages, disadvantages, right? But if you can't think of any, what you can do is simply say, as I've done here, there are several advantages, blah, 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 but I think the main advantage, and talk about that. So here, this essay will show, or in my view, doesn't actually matter, main advantage of free healthcare is that everyone, whatever their income, has access to a basic level of care. So in this sense, because if a person's held responsible for their own health and well-being, obviously this would put poor people at a major disadvantage. So the main advantage of this free universal care is that everyone can have access to a basic level of care. Just like in the UK, the National Health Service, which you may have heard of. Whereas in other countries like America, you have to have health insurance, which you don't in the UK. Now, what's the disadvantage? Again, if you can't think of advantages, disadvantages, then yeah, just use use one and make sure that you say the main. I mean, you can paraphrase this if you want to. You can say a benefit and drawback, or pros and cons. It doesn't actually matter really. So with this, advantages. If it's free, it will be abused. So what I talk about in the essay, and I'll share this Band 9 essay sample that I wrote a while ago. I'll share this a bit later. Well, you can freeze this video and take a look at it now, but I'll post it on the group IELTS9PRO on Telegram. So what I basically say here, paragraph 2, advantages. People on low incomes can have medical attention, and I talk about the creation of the NHS in the UK after World War II. Until that time, if you were poor and you couldn't afford to pay for a doctor, you didn't get treated. It was as simple as that. So that's a major advantage. Everybody gets healthcare, which saves lives. However, the disadvantage, abuse, and you may or may not have heard about this, health tourists. In the UK, we get lots of foreigners who have not paid their taxes, because obviously they don't live in the UK, and they come to the UK. The NHS, if you go to a hospital in the UK, they won't turn you away. That will not occur. You know, if you're in the UK on holiday, say, and you are ill, sick, you can call an ambulance, you can go to accident and emergency, get into hospital, and you will be treated. You won't be turned away. Now, they're supposed to bill you afterwards, but what lots of people do, they disappear, they go home and they don't pay. So this is the abuse part of universal healthcare. So that's how I would, and how I did, write that particular essay. So back to yours now. Let's see what you've done. Let's have a look. Okay, somebody's name in Persian, no idea. It is necessary avoiding free pay in healthcare around the world. What does that mean? It is necessary avoiding what? It's necessary to avoid. But why is it necessary? It doesn't actually say that. It doesn't say it's necessary. It just says it should be abolished. So avoiding free pay. So this is very badly paraphrased. I think this is probably due to the author's English ability, but that is nonsense. That does not work. Now, the second part does. However, it is the responsibility of individuals to care for themselves. That's good, and look after their health. So that first part doesn't work. The second clause does. The major benefits are something like that. You see, instead of advantages, okay, are something like lesser spending state budget, less spending on the state budget. So make these complete sentences. And more doing activities by individuals, more activities done by individuals to prevent obesity. Okay, so that needs to be reworked in terms of word order. On the other hand, there will be some drawbacks. For instance, kind of, or a kind of, the kind of unwanted illnesses, like a variety of cancers, which have you considered painful, costly, would bother ill person. I'm not sure what that means. How is that a disadvantage of free healthcare? So it's asking you what's the advantages. So I think you've turned this around. So in terms of logic, I would do advantages first, then the disadvantages. You know, it has a logic, as I did there. So the major benefits of free healthcare, less spending on I think you've got this the wrong way. I mean, I'm confused. I'm not sure what this is talking about. So I think in terms of word order and logic, this does need some attention. Something because it would. I don't understand this. If you're ill, of course, having some kind of cancer would bother you because you've got cancer. So I don't. Well, not intelligible. The examiner would have a hard time understanding this, and unlike as I am now, he or she would not attempt to interpret it. They just read it, no idea what that means, and they would mark it accordingly. Okay. There is a common opinion. Well, it doesn't really say anything about a common opinion. Now, avoiding this, right, you can do as I've done. It has been argued, it has been said, make it passive, use that passive construction. Then you don't say a majority of people, there's a common opinion. It doesn't really say anything about a common opinion. We don't know if this is a single person's view or the view of many people. So, to avoid this, it has been argued, it has been said. Common opinion that the government or governments, so you either have an article or you make it a plural form, if it's an abstract as a noun, should be responsible for public health care. Well, it doesn't say that. It says the person should be held responsible. That's what it says. It doesn't say that, does it? That's exactly the opposite of what the rubric actually says. It says, universal health care, which obviously will be provided by the state or government, that should be abolished, scrapped, binned, as a person should. So the common view, or however the opinion here, is that the person, the individual, should be responsible. So this seems to be the other way round. It doesn't say that. It says personal responsibility instead of the government. However, free healthcare can enhance the health of society. Don't need a definite article because it's not a particular society as yet. However, free healthcare can enhance the health of society. It would put an obligation on government forever. Is this supposed to be the disadvantage? So, right. However, no, you want even though. However is when you're indicating a contrast, but there isn't a contrast yet. So instead of that, even though or despite the fact that free healthcare. So we need a different discourse marker. Even though, despite the fact that free healthcare can enhance the health of society, it would put an obligation on government forever. Well, it doesn't actually say it. Where does it say that? An obligation on government forever. It doesn't actually say anything about that. All it says is the individual should be responsible, so let's bin universal healthcare. And so that's the background, that's the context. You have to refer to it, but that's the background. The actual question is, what's the advantages and disadvantages of free healthcare? So you need to be clear. Even though free health can advance the health, so you'd have to put something like the benefits, the main advantage, the pros of free healthcare can enhance health of society, and I don't know what that is supposed to refer to. The disadvantage and shifts or would shift financial resources from required fields such as the economy and society to healthcare. So that needs to be, so that's the wrong way round, and that needs to be spelt out a little bit more. In many countries there are some free of charge healthcare facilities. Okay, you don't need that. Don't need that sentence at all. It doesn't add anything. It's argued that these kind of free facilities should be abolished. Okay, individuals ought to bear the responsibility for their own health. So we don't need that first sentence, but sentence 2, that's good. Dedicating the huge budget which previously was allocated to the system of healthcare to the other items. What? To what other items? We don't need an article because you haven't told us what the other items are yet. As well as releasing the authorities from the heavy burden of supplying. This is a very long sentence. It's almost a run-on sentence if you're not careful. So, dedicating the huge budget which previously was allocated to the citizens' healthcare to other items, as well as releasing the authorities from the heavy burden of supplying the people's health requirements, are the benefits of this proposal. Too long a sentence, too long. Despite these merits or advantages, without the aid of government, not only would many unfortunate patients die, but also many citizens would suffer from the huge medical fee. What use? Why do we have a definite article yet? From huge medical fees. It's an abstract noun, so make it a plural, because we haven't introduced it yet, so you can't use a definite article. Okay, that's not too bad. Okay, that's good. Sentence 2. This was a little bit long, and this needs a little bit of rewording, but why would many unfortunate patients die? You would have to specifically say that these patients or poor patients would die, because here it just says many unfortunate patients. Well, why? Unless you mean that they are poor and could not afford healthcare. So you'd have to specifically make it clear that you're referring to poor people. Okay. Forbidden is not the same as abolished. Not the same. Look it up in your dictionary. As everyone should be responsible for their care and health. Okay. Offering poor health care? Who says it would be poor? Is this supposed to be result? Who says it would be poor? As a lack of enough funds is the main disadvantage. Why do you in terms of logic, wouldn't it be better, make more sense to put advantages than disadvantages? That's the order of the question, and it makes sense. So, offering poor healthcare as a result of a lack of enough funds. So, right, the main disadvantage of free healthcare. So, who says it would be poor, and who said it wouldn't be sufficiently funded? Where does it say that? I don't see it saying that anywhere. So if you're going to be introducing fresh ideas, you have to make sure that you spell out what you mean exactly. However, people can benefit from receiving free healthcare since they do not have to bear. Well, you don't bear. You can bear a burden, but you don't have to. But you don't bear a great deal of money you can spend or pay for minor ailments. Why minor? Why not something major? Okay. So we would have to see where the rest of the essay went in order to fully comment or appreciate on this introduction. So, according to some, universal free healthcare should be ceased is not the same as abolished. Ceased means to be stopped. Abolished means to be repealed or cancelled. It's not quite the same thing, and it doesn't work in terms of collocation anyway. So, if in doubt, use the same word or use a different form. But ceased, abolished is not quite the same thing. Cease simply means stop. Abolish means something else. Take a look in your dictionaries. Imposing on people's shoulder. Okay, imposing on people's shoulder. Imposing what? Imposing a burden? To look after themselves. So that needs to be reworded a little bit. I think I get the general idea, but it's not very clear. Well, covering, but again, right? Why do you put the disadvantages and advantages when it's clear in the question advantages and disadvantages? Isn't it logical to stick to the structure? You know. Okay. So while covering both huge costs and taxes and negative consequences of free medical services. What? Huge costs and taxes? What huge costs and taxes? Okay. Having a secure, healthy body and mind leading to the healthiest society are worthwhile effects. Having access to free health. Okay. So that first sentence needs a bit of reworking. It could be a little better written. I've got your main ideas here, but why don't you put advantages first, then the disadvantages? Worldwide. Well, it's not worldwide. When it says universal, it means within a country. It means available to all. It doesn't mean around the universe, around the entire world. It doesn't mean that at all. Worldwide is not universal refers to it being available to everyone, not around the world. Worldwide unpaid health service. Unpaid? What you mean? Free? Unpaid by whom? What? The health service people are not being paid? So again, this needs to be free, unpaid. Again, depending on the context, it may be misinterpreted. Should be eliminated. Well, eliminated is not the same as abolished. You eliminate a plague of insects or a plague of rats. You don't eliminate the universal health service. It can be abolished, but not the same as eliminated. As an individual should be held accountable for their wellness. Well, what's wellness? For their health. Wellness, we don't really use that. Their wellness. This essay will first suggest that ending for free health support, we don't need that article because you've not mentioned it yet, would develop a sense of awareness towards physical fitness. Oh yeah, good. While the main drawback is it can be an extra burden for those who suffer financial hardship. That's better word order. Okay, that's not bad. Extra burden for those who suffer financial hardship. In other words, poor people. Okay, how many more? Just one? Okay. It is believed that delinquency should be stopped since abolish is not quite the same as stopped. Since everybody must obligate their health. What does that mean? How can you obligate as a verb your health? So since everybody must be, since the individual is obliged to be healthy, I don't know, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. I contend that this policy is ineffective because not all people are able, because not all people, or not all the people, are able to afford the huge cost of medicine. However, if this strategy is implemented, so well, you say it's ineffective, but is that supposed to be the disadvantage? And again, why do we have the disadvantages and the advantages? It says advantage, disadvantage. Why do people keep changing it around, the order? So are you saying that this is a disadvantage? It's ineffective, but what does that mean? Why is it ineffective? So, okay, there's some good stuff here, but it needs a little bit of reworking. So, okay, so not too bad, not too bad. So that one's mine. You can see that there. Okay, not too bad. There's a few little things that I would change. I'll just put my full version on the screen, and I'll leave it there, and you can have a look at it and see how I've approach this particular issue. Okay, that's good. That's okay for now. So now the internet seems to be working again, well, for the time being. At any rate, we'll have a new topic later, and you can try writing those, and I'll see you in the next video.